Hey everybody, Pete Meyer, Motor Age Magazine with another edition of In the Workshop. Having information to fix today's cars is vital in order to have a successful repair. Locating good sources of that information is also a varied choice. And even with all the resources that you have, sometimes you just don't have the answer, and sometimes you need additional help. And sometimes you wonder why the OEMs seem so disconnected from the rest of the world. But you know what? There's an organization that has been in the background and working on interacting between the technician and the OEM for a long time now. It's the National Automotive Service Task Force. And with us today is Executive Director Skip Potter to tell us a little bit about the mission of NASTF and some of the factors that they take an active role in, some of the things that they do on a daily basis that makes your job in the Bay that much easier. Skip, how are you?
I'm fine, Pete. Thank you very much for having me. One of my primary jobs with NASTF is to talk to technicians, and your show certainly gives me an opportunity to do that. Thanks very much.
Oh, my pleasure, Skip. I'm really glad that you had the opportunity to come out and talk to me today. And of course, we've kind of worked a little bit together in the past. Motor Age tries to support the mission of NASTF and get the word out on what you guys do. But there's still a lot of technicians and shop owners out there that don't know about the mission of the National Automotive Service Task Force and the role that it plays and the benefits that it provides. So give us an overview, if you will, of the mission of NASTF.
Sure. NASTF is a place where really the OEMs and the technicians can connect. And I think NASTF is all about what I call conversations and solutions. And our conversations include things like the opportunities that I get to do this with you, conversations where I get to get out and visit various places where technicians gather. One of the examples of that was for 2013 was at Vision in Kansas City. I was recently at the ASA Arizona event out in Prescott, Arizona. I got to meet a lot of the technicians out there, including Dave Lansbury, who was really I would call him the founding technician of this organization. So it was a real thrill to meet him too. But some of the other conversations include just the simple things like the hundreds of phone calls that that NASTF gets every month, and the emails. We've got, there's only two of us really in the office. David Lowell in Texas runs the Vehicle Security Professional Registry Program for the Vehicle Security Program. And I'm kind of the chief cook and bottle washer here at in Florida, and I get all the other telephone calls and emails to deal with.
Yeah, I guess I want to give some background, if you don't mind, to clarify for techs who are new to the NASTF, maybe never heard of it before. But let me ask you a question, guys. When you're working on a car and you're using your aftermarket service information system and you don't quite have that, and we used to complain that we didn't have the same thing that the dealer guys had, or the same access to the information or the tooling. That was something that we had way in the past. Not so much anymore, because you look around. Now you can access the OE service information. Now you can get the OE factory scan tool and other special tools if that's what you want to do. And a lot of that came from the efforts of the NASTF. Isn't that right, Skip?
Oh, that's absolutely right. And it was kind of interesting. I found out in talking with Dave Lansbury and a couple of the other old timers around this, around the formation of NASTF. Actually, the beginning of NASTF. Previous to the beginning of the official NASTF organization was what they called the Arizona Project, and it was interesting because that was the very first opportunity that a real technician and a real OEM service support person got to sit down together and talk. It's interesting because it was an informal gathering. that took place after one of the legislative sessions in the State House of Arizona. A small group went down the street and sat in a bar and started talking, and it was interesting because Steve Douglas, who is still on my board today, was around back then, and he was a part of that. And he said, you know, Skip, it was interesting because it was like the OEMs thought that they were giving what they needed to the independents to service the vehicles, the out of warranty vehicles particularly. And in talking with a couple of the technicians that were in the room there, they figured out that they'd both been building a bridge to these resources between the aftermarket and the OEM resources, but they hadn't talked to each other, so they were building two separate bridges. And he said those bridges just never met in the middle, and it was after that informal meeting that they said, you know, if we talk to each other and we can figure out what you need and how you need it, we can build that bridge, and the aftermarket will have more, I would say, the you know, just the logistics around getting the information
Sure.
would be much more efficient. And that's really how NASTF began, and in the spirit of how NASTF began.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to note that, you know, a lot of the guys who are in the profession now, they don't remember those days, you know, where you had limited information, where you were using the old, you know, paper manuals, you know, to work on the car you had in your bay. And this has made a big difference. I know there are some areas of the country that are considering or have enacted, you know, legislation to make this kind of thing mandatory. But you know what? For those who know of the efforts of the National Automotive Service Task Force and the people who got that ball rolling, it's a whole lot better to get it on a voluntary basis than it is on a mandatory one, I think. And that's not the only factor that comes in. I mean, so many vehicles now, of course, using electronic control modules for everything from running the engine to opening the windows. And a lot of these modules contain security information to make them less prone to being hacked or you know, stolen. And sometimes that causes a stumbling block for the independent, because you don't have that direct OE access. But NASTF has a solution for those guys too, don't they?
Yes, that's right. Back in 2008, we introduced the Vehicle Security Professional Program. At the time, I think a lot of the old-timers know that program as the SDRM, or the Security Data Release Model. And the SDRM was really an OEM project to figure out how they could connect their login systems on their websites to a verifiable database of technicians who had undergone a background check and had been identified as real live people that could be tracked down in case of a vehicle theft and things like that. So it was a partnership, really. It became a partnership between the OEMs and the National Insurance Crime Bureau and the NASTF Vehicle Security Professional Registry. Then is the database that was created to kind of bring all this together and allow this to happen.
Yeah, and not only has that helped a lot of technicians, you know, take care of their customers' cars by going through the process and becoming, you know, registered for access to this information, but I understand you also work with the insurance industry and law enforcement, and that has helped reduce the amount of vehicle thefts in this country.
Yeah, of course, you don't know what it would be without it, but certainly NASTF provides the opportunity to link all of the service work that's done.
Sure.
With any theft that might occur. Yes, we have, and in fact, separate from the NASTF Vehicle Security Professional Program, several of the OEMs already are registering their own dealer techs through their own systems, and the same system that tracks all of the transactions, the security transactions that are taking place every time a technician applies for a key code or a mobilizer reset or any of those in-out codes that are necessary to reinitialize modules, all of those things occur, and that transaction is recorded and time-stamped, with the VIN number of a vehicle. So we know, when the FBI reports a theft, it goes through the National Insurance Crime Bureau, and they do their research and notify us, and we can turn off or notify LSID holders in the NASDAQ program that their account's been disabled. Please notify us and give us what's called a D1 form, which is really the D1 form is kind of the key to making this work. It requires that all transactions with a vehicle be verified by the actual owner of the vehicle.
Sure.
So we ask for D1 proof in all of our audits that we do, and that's a big part of David Lowell's job, quite honestly, is to do the audits. We do random audits, and we also do audits for cause, things that we've been notified about, unusual patterns that we see in the transactions by one LSID holder.
Sure.
In the database. So there's a lot of stuff that we do there to ensure that whole program remains credible and secure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the OEs, and I've spoken to a couple of representatives, and they are more than willing to make these connections, and they do it for selfish reasons. They have a product out there that they're trying to sell, and certainly they want as much of the market share as they can get. And they know that when people go to buy a replacement vehicle, one of the people that they ask for an opinion is their mechanic, their tech.
Right.
Just see what's breaking down and what's spending more time in the shop than on the road. So they want to make sure the information is out there and that their vehicles are maintained properly even after their warranty period. So they have a big vested interest in that. Now, once in a while, there's going to be an issue where the tech's done all their homework, they've gone through all their resources, and they still need some help, or they run into a snag, they can't get what they need. And isn't there a process or procedure that they can come to NASTF and submit a request for assistance on that? How's that work?
Yeah, what you're referring to is the what we call the Service Information Request program, and that was really the very first solution that NASTF's committees and board were able to create for the industry. The scenario that you just gave as an example is exactly what the NASTF SIR, what we call the SIR, Service Information Request Program, is designed to fix. Is for the technician who has bought all the tools that he knows he needs to do the job. He's got the education. He knows he's doing the right thing. He uses all of the aftermarket information services that you get, and probably subscribes on IATN. And he's been to all those stops. He's bought a subscription on the OEM website. Service information subscriptions are available from virtually every single automaker that sell in the United States for technicians in the United States. So he's been online on the OEM website, bought their subscription, he still can't find it. And if he believes that the dealer has the information and he can't get it, the last resort is the NASTF SIR release or form. So they file that SIR from our website, and within 24, 48 hours, working 2 working days, we're most of the time able to then get an answer for that technician, particularly if he's looking for something that the dealer has. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what we're finding. I've been in this job for a year now, and handled every one of those that we get. And a lot of the real missing information pieces are perhaps files that are up there. Maybe it's a navigation issue, we can't get to it. Maybe it's a file, we've run into this a couple of times, where it's a reflash file, for instance, that is corrupt, it's not working. A reflash file maybe that was missing for one engine when all the other ones were there already available. They just hadn't posted the file. Things like that we are able to resolve very quickly with the OEM contacts that we have.
Yeah, and I'm going to stress here, fellas, this is not a silver bullet hotline. Don't send a bunch of emails to NASTF and Skip, looking for the quick fixes. This is after you've done all your homework, and as Skip pointed out, 9 times out of 10, it's something that the OEM just hasn't gotten to posting yet, and they do act very quickly. I think your close rate is what, in the 90% range for these cases. So that's another advantage, of course, of supporting the efforts of the National Automotive Service Task Force. So let's talk a little bit about that, Skip. I mean, for technicians who want to learn more about NASTF, what they can do to support, take part. I know you guys have a lot of committees that are doing some great work, in the background. Tell us a little bit about what those opportunities are.
Yeah, we encourage at least every A Tech and B Tech in this country, in the United States, should be you can call it a member or a supporter. It's a free membership in NASTF. We count whoever has signed up for our newsletter, we really count as members or supporters of NASTF. And it's interesting because the OEMs look at those numbers and say, this is significant. When we can have, we're not there yet, but we ought to have 25,000 technicians and shop owners, independent shop owners that should be members of and supporters of NASTF. And I think there's a big wow factor when we reach those kinds of numbers. There's a wow factor to the OEMs. It says, there's a committed network of technicians out there who are interested in taking care of our customers, the OEM, what they call their retail customer. So, NASTF.org/getNASTF takes you directly to the registration page. You have to look up your name first before you can. It lets you put in your information just to prevent duplications in our database.
Sure.
But it's a very simple process, and it also it's free. So we want particularly we'll take any technician. And educators, we have anybody in the industry can support NASTF, but obviously what we do is for the professional independent technician. So like I said, we estimate there's 25,000 real true professionals out there in our industry that have the right tools and are seeking the right education, and it's those technicians who really, I think, can benefit most from NASTF. We want them to sign up and become supporters of the NASTF mission.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the very least, that number. I mean, guys, if you're out there and you're a professional tech, as Skip pointed out, this is a free organization just to be a part of. If you read the newsletters, and I've received several copies, always good information in them, and a lot of resources that NASTF provides for you. So check out the website www.nastf.org and /get started, as Skip pointed out, so that you can sign up for that newsletter and start taking advantage of the hard work these guys are doing for you. So Skip, what's new? What's coming up new? We've talked about some of these things that you guys have been doing for a while. What's on the horizon for NASTF?
Well, pretty exciting. I think one of our strategic priorities for the for this year and probably for several years to come is to make sure that NASTF shows up where technicians are. And we were at the Vision, like I said, Vision 2013, had our general meeting there. Our fall general meeting this year on November 6th is going to be in Las Vegas at the over at the Apex show, but we'll be out there for the Apex SEMA week. And as you know, that's a huge gathering for the industry. In advance of that, NASTF will have an exhibit. I will be at ASRW, which is in Vegas a couple of weeks ahead of that. And even looking further ahead, we've already made a commitment to move our spring 2014 general meeting to the Technicians Education event, ATE, that's run by ASA of Northwest in Seattle. And that's March 20th, I believe, is the date of that in Seattle. So certainly all of those technicians up in the Northern California and the Northwest, it's their opportunity to take advantage of ATE's great education programming, but also we'll have our general meeting there on the day prior to their events, and then we'll stick around and have an exhibit where technicians can come up and ask us questions and register and become members if they're not already a member.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I've just got to say, too, Skip, I'm really impressed that you just mentioned here the first general session coming up here in the fall, Apex, huge show. A lot of people coming through the halls there. And then following it up with ASA Northwest up in Seattle, I've had a chance to check out that event, and not large by Apex standards by any means, but a very dedicated group of professionals and educators there. Great training, as you pointed out. So I think it's admirable that you guys aren't just looking for the big venues. You pointed out it's a sincere attempt to get out to press the flesh, so to speak, with the technicians around the country and spread the message of NASTF. We hope that today, in some part, helps in that mission. Skip, I want to take a chance again to say thank you for coming out and hanging out with us and sharing the NASTF, the National Automotive Service Task Force mission. Guys, again, sign up. www.nastf.org/get started and take advantage of all the things that the National Automotive Service Task Force has to offer.
Correction there, that's /get NASTF.
Oh, get NASTF.
Get
okay.
NASTF.
Okay, correction, but make sure you can see it here on the bottom of the screen, so we'll have the right one for you to go to. Skip, thanks again so much for coming out.
All right, thank you very much for having me, Pete. Thank you.